let's speak about two authentic but moody Dancong cultivar, Zhi Lan Xiang and Zhong. This is Nannuoshan, I'm Gabriele, and today, after 5 years of search, I'm finally in good company with a Zhi Lan Xiang and a Zhong. It has been a long time because they're not so easy cultivar, and I want to take the opportunity also to share a little bit more insight into the cultivars themselves, because we have been spoken quite a bit about Dancong. There was a video about the difference between the leaves of Dancong and Yancha. I certainly spoke also about Huangjixian, my favorite Dancong, but I don't think we have been speaking about these two guys here. Now, in my view, or not even my view, I would say in my experience, there are Dancong teas that are fairly easy to process. Milanxian, Yaxixian, the farmers doesn't matter pretty much how much experience they have, how the weather was, you get usually good tea, usually pretty good tea, and very rarely bad teas. There are Dancong that are somewhat in between, like Zhi Lan Xiang, for example. It's usually good, but I had some pretty bad Zhi Lan Xiang. So also by sourcing, you have to pay some attention. And then there are difficult cultivars, and Zhi Lan Xiang and Zhong are difficult cultivars. Are cultivars that most of the time, when I try these teas for sourcing, I don't get them, I don't buy them because they are not where they should be. Zhi Lan Xiang, I had a very, very good one more than 10 years ago. Then again, a good one about 5 years ago. And here we are, 5 years later, we have a really, really good one that it's worth using for describing the taste of Zhi Lan Xiang. Because Zhi Lan Xiang is, it has a really characteristic taste, but it's kind of difficult to describe. How should I put that? Think about a crispy apple and a crispy pear. Now, both of them have characteristic taste. If I tell you I have eaten a crispy pear, you know that's the taste of the pear. Crispy apple, same story. But it's very difficult to describe without referring to the word apple and pear to their taste. You have commonalities though, right? You can say they both have a very watery, sweet taste, I would say. Maybe you could also say light green, because I'm saying they are crispy, so they are both a little bit, they have a light green nuances in the taste. And I would say that they have a tiny bit of florality as well. But that's what's in common between the two. Now try to tell them apart. Same story for Zhi Lan Xiang, another Dancong cultivar. They have a characteristic taste, but you have to acquire. You have to make it yours. And then when you know how an apple tastes, then an apple will taste like an apple and a pear like a pear because you know it. So my suggestion is try to make that with easy cultivar where you can find a lot, like Milanxian, as we said, Yaxixian, you can find a lot that taste like Milanxian should taste and like Yaxixian should taste. And when you find a Zhi Lan Xiang that is really characteristic, then try to imprint in your brain that taste. Same story for the Zhong, also very characteristic tea. Now, before we speak about the taste, I would actually then brew them so that I can at least go a little bit closer to describe them than just general terms, let's say. But let's speak about what to expect. So Zhi Lan Xiang is a tea. For some, it reminds Milanxiang, but it is less in your face. It is usually medium to high oxidation and medium to high roast, so usually processed as a traditional Dancong. And the word itself, Zhi Lan Xiang, means something like a rare or elegant orchid fragrance. Now, we expect a floral Dancong, if they put the word orchid in it. Zhong in the name of the tea, Zhong has nothing to do with the taste. Zhong is like the Song dynasty, and Zhong means variety. or type, variety type, something like that. So it's the variety of the Song dynasty, because this tea dates back to the Song dynasty, so more than 700 years ago. It is arguably the oldest cultivar, or they are the Zhong plants are the oldest plants with in the Dancong area on Oolong mountain. The oldest tree you can find are Zhong, and that's why it takes the name from the dynasty. Also, I remember when I visited this ancient garden where you can find these really 700-year plus old trees, you could see that they grow amid massive stones or boulders, actually, that in their color and in the look, they just recall very, very much the cliffs that you see in Oishan. I would say it's really the same stone. It is this very unique, dark purple reddish stone, very textured, that there are not so many around. So you see it in Oishan, you see it there, and it's just the same thing. So also, this to me is a clear justification also for probably the type of soil that is similar, or at least the minerality of the soil, and that's also the minerality that you get into the taste. Now, let's check them out. First of all, just by looking at the dry leaves, they are both pretty dark. I would say similarly dark, very difficult probably to render to the camera. The Zhi Lan Xiang on this side is a tiny bit more reddish, but similarly dark. They are pretty high, both pretty high on Oolong. This Zhi Lan Xiang was harvested. The trees are at about 950 meters of elevation. The Zhong is a bit higher, 1080. But since the Oolong mountain, I think it goes up to 1200, something like that, you're pretty much towards the top. Water is fine. And I put actually 6 grams each in the Gaiwan. It is more than what Gabriele usually does, but actually with Dancong, you can push the quantity longer, not longer, you can push more quantity in my opinion. When we had these teas during the tea tour, the Nannuoshan tea tour in Yunnan earlier this year with many participants that contributed actually to the selection of the teas and also pre-ordered those, we had a 150 milliliter Gaiwan with 12 grams. So it would be the equivalent of 8 grams per 100 milliliter, and we're perfectly fine. But we were really flash brewing. First of all, let's do a quick rinse so we can get some fragrance from the leaves, and also have a look at the color of the brew. Actually, I can maybe take this aside. The air is filling with with Dancong aroma. Dancong is also belongs to my top 3 choice when it's about the tea, next to Shampooer and Taiwan Oolong. So it really resonates with me. The Zhi Lan Xiang is a slightly bit darker. Actually, the Zhi Lan Xiang was roasted only 2 times, while the Zhong was roasted 3 times for a little bit less hour, if I remember correctly, each time. And the temperature is kind of similar, but nonetheless, you can have a variation, right? It is roasted with wood fire. It's very difficult to control the wood fire temperature, right? So you can better judge, let's say, by the color, although that can be also oxidation, of course, the color, not only roasting. All right. It's really nice having having these teas around. I have to thank, well, a few people. I have to thank, first of all, Spencer, who was one interpreter of the tea tour and has been a friend of mine for more than a decade. We were born even in the same day, just slightly different year. And because she introduced me to Sky. She introduced me to Sky. Sky is a guy of same age as Spencer. They went to university together. They are all from the Chaozhou area. They went to school in Shantou. This is where I met Spencer. And Sky also was an interpreter of the tea tour this year, and he also ran his own tea business together with a master in Shenzhen. And their main tea is Dancong. So they sell mainly Dancong and also Yixing and Chaozhou teapot. So while we were traveling in Yunnan, he got some fresh tea over to Yunnan, just shipped while we were traveling, so that on one evening we could have a really massive tea tasting. After having had so much shampoo, we had a final tasting with I don't know, a dozen of Dancong, one after the other. It was really tough, but also so rewarding. Here are the teas, and let's go with the taste. So what I will describe now is the taste of these two specific teas. Now, the reason why I've been sourcing them this tea, and I haven't been sourcing any other Zhi Lan Xiang and Zhong for the past 5 years, is because in these I recognize that characteristic taste I was talking about. I believe the last Zhi Lan Xiang we bought is a 2021. There are maybe still a few pouches on stock. Zhong is sold out, and it was from spring 2020, I think. So it has been a while. Let me start with the lid. Let's see if I can show you guys the leaves here. This is the Zhi Lan Xiang. And this is the Zhong. Slightly paler in color. I'll start with the Zhi Lan Xiang. Between the two is the most difficulty. Zhong is a tiny bit easier to find in terms of taste, I'm speaking. So, yes, the florality is on the upfront. When you drink a Zhi Lan Xiang, it doesn't matter if it's not a bouquet style. This is a traditional style. You have to get florality in your mouth. If the first thing you think is something else, something green, fruity, then it's unlikely that it is the characteristic typical Zhi Lan Xiang taste. Of course, the classic association is orchid. You call it. It's certainly a very bright and intense florality, but not as intense and as filling, I would say, as a Milan Xiang, as I was saying before. We'll get another cup of this before switching over. The texture is also smooth, rather buttery, milky, soft texture. So not aggressive, not sharp. It's not a sharp tea. If you can get something more. I mean, I don't know if I'm influenced by the color that reminds me some stone fruits, but it has some nuances of stone fruits. So for me, put together a light minerality, definitely a remarkable florality with a milky texture and some peachy notes that sometimes are there, sometimes are not. Zhong. Very different tea. Less floral. Maybe not floral. What I have in mind, it's not a taste actually. It reminds me the color red. Why? Zhong, red. So that's my first association. It's a red tea. It's not a honcha, but maybe some berries. Yeah, if I have to pick up some fruits, no peaches. Yeah, I would go for berries. I said also here maybe I'm influenced by the red association, but yeah, but I think it's a good match actually. And it's juicy. Yes, here I had a more clean balance maybe. This is also balanced, but it has this juiciness. Well, from something floral you don't expect juicy taste. From something maybe berry-like or fruity, the juiciness is, if that's a word, is, yeah, it's definitely there. I like. And beyond that, guys, you need to try out. If you can find also from different, my suggestion, different suppliers, get some samples. Let's say you get 3, 4, 5 different Sonjong, if there are out there at the same time from different suppliers, 3, 4, 5 Zhi Lan Xiang. You taste them, and you discard those that are nothing in common with the other, and you try to extract what's in common. That might be also an option for me. The way I see it, it's how can I say, it's, let's go back to the apples and pears. It's not that you had to try when you were a child 1,000 different apples to know the taste of an apple. Like, you taste an apple and you notice what is characteristic about that apple, what makes it different than any other fruit. And the same here is for a specific Dancong. It's like you taste the tea after you having tasted a lot of different Dancong in your life, so you know what this tea has in common with the other Dancong. That minerality, astringency, a little bit of astringency, and also bitterness. So it's a bitter astringent taste that is very characteristic of Dancong. All these aspects, they are there, and then you just extract what's left, what any other cultivar has, and that's what makes this tea characteristic. So in one word, Sonjong, red. I don't have a single word for Zhi Lan Xiang. Yeah, no, Zhi Lan Xiang, not possible really. Dark florality. I have to use 2 words. This is my short form association for the two. Now, the 2 teas are online, and they are both available both in the US and on the European shop. In terms of price, the Zhi Lan Xiang is 28 euros or $31, and the Sonjong is 35 euros or $39 US dollars. Guys, this is all I have to share with you today about these 2 outstanding cultivar. I hope you will also have the opportunity to try them, to try some authentic Zhi Lan Xiang and authentic Sonjong, and get them into your tDNA for a new association. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you the next one. Bye, guys.